We got the thumbs up. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, apologies. I think we're actually all here, aren't we? Chris has got to get his microphone to say yes, I think. Oh, that's me.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. All here. Just to note that Councillor Suttle is with us remotely, so whilst he'll be able to participate, he will not be able to vote on any matter.
Correct. Right. Minutes of the previous meeting. We okay? Me to sign those? True record? Yes. Thank you. Declaration of interest. Anybody got any interests? I doubt it very much, but I can ask. Right. I don't think there's any public today, is there, Chris?
No, thank you, Chairman. I've had no request to participate from members of the public.
Councillor, questions?
Same again, no questions have been received in advance of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Right, we've got to agenda item 6, which is the forward plan. It all looks pretty straightforward. The sort of reports we'd expect to see coming to this Cabinet Committee. Anybody got any comments, or can we accept them as they are? Content? Yeah, I'll take silence as a yes, just for the benefit of those that are online. Good. Right, we're going to agenda item 7, which is Dorset Council organisational update. Am I looking at you, Jane? Who am I looking at to do that? Jane.
Leader, I'll take that item. Okay, so obviously report attached. I think it's worth noting that 1 year on, there's been considerable progress made on the original intentions as set out in the Cabinet report, which is really significant and should be celebrated. So lots of positive achievements, but also achievements in opening up new services such as the reablement beds and more importantly and more recently the development of the plans moving forward. So all in all, I think a very positive first year performance, and there are a couple of recommendations in the report, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Colleagues? No, I've read the report. It all looks pretty straightforward. Jane?
I don't have a... Sorry, I don't have a question as such, but I mean, I think, you know, it is absolutely exceeded all expectation, I think, which is obviously pleasing, and considering the enormity of the change and the possibilities and the size of potential risks, I think, I'm really delighted. Oh, sorry. I think that's Gary. Yeah.
His mute button.
Yeah, there were huge potentials within. You're moving over, you know, was it 800 people over, and also ensuring that the levels of care that people were receiving continued smoothly, and that, you know, there were very little that was a concern. So content, happy, exceeded expectation. Looking forward to the future.
Jane, well, I think that's the impression I think most people have had about the progress that's been made. As you said earlier, the transfer of 800 people across on 2B is no mean feat, as well as doing the job. And all the feedback I've had in the public domain has been positive. And I think we should take some credit for all the work the officers and members have done around that. Jane?
Yes, thank you. Also, just to highlight that there's going to be a webinar for members coming up in a few weeks. because there's a lot of interest in what Care Dorset does, how it works, how the interaction is with the council. So I'm really pleased that we're going to be having that opportunity to provide that information in a webinar. So I hope lots of members will come along so they can ask all those questions.
I think having a webinar for members is really useful. Like a lot of topics we've had webinars, and it's proved beneficial across the chamber to give people a chance to get an understanding about some of the challenges and the opportunities that this sort of operation brings. So that's good news that we're dealing with. When's that going to be? Early in the new year? Oh no, the 18th. 18th, because you told me earlier. 18th of December. I remembered as I was saying it. Right, we've got anybody else want to comment? Got 2 recommendations as set out in the report. Are we all content with those? I'm going to take silence as a yes. It's an easy way of dealing with it. Thank you very much. Let's go on to Care Dorset update then. Let's see. I'm going to hand over to, bear with me, wonderful technology, Chris. Caroline, there you are, your moment.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And this is my first report to this committee since you confirmed my appointment back in June. It's by way of a summary. There's much more detail around performance in agenda item 9. So the next item. Since the committee last met, we have celebrated our first birthday. We had a webinar for staff that Councillor Somper and I talked to staff, and we also had an awards evening to say thank you to everybody. I just want to draw your attention to a few things. First of all, our focus on quality in section 4, where we really have been looking at how we can ensure the quality and safety of all our services, and also on the way we're building capacity. I'm particularly proud of the work of our HR teams. We've increased our workforce by 65.6 full-time equivalents, and turnover is down at 17.3%, which, as you can see in the report, is well below the sector average. And there's been a huge amount of work. And this has meant that we've been able to increase our bed occupancy and also the amount of enablement that's available. We've had some key role changes. As you know, Steve Weaver, our Managing Director, and Emily Denham, Director of Operations, left in September. I think all of you know Chris Best, who was previously Deputy Managing Director and Director of HR and Organisational Development. He's now the Interim Managing Director, and Ali Price has taken on the role of Director of Performance and quality, which is really good news. Financial performance, just talked a little bit about in section 12. As you'd expect, we have had some financial challenges like every other care provider. I've already mentioned we've had to put some investment into the quality of services and also backdated pay award, and the increases in energy bills, which every business is experiencing. There's also been the delay with the extra care housing, where we've incurred some costs, but thanks to our very good relationship with our commissioners and with the council, I think we're hopeful we can mitigate most of that. I think that's really positive. We look at our strategic risks every board meeting, and as you can see, there has been some reduction. We do need to stress test some of the mitigations to make sure we are safe. And finally, our strategy development. We're working on that as we speak. That's something the board is doing. It'll be out for consultation in the new year. We're making sure that it is entirely aligns with the Dorset Council's commissioning strategy. I think that's very, very important. And we'll be bringing this back to the Shareholder Committee earlier in the new year. So happy to answer any questions. We should have put a recommendation at the end of this. Apologies for that. So I think the recommendation would be to note the report. Thank you very much.
With big blobs of red in it, I'd wonder why. Now, I'm sure there's a very, very good reason, and there's no reason to panic, but it might be something to think about in terms of I mean, I can see lots of positives. I mean, I think all of us can see lots of positives, lots of progress, lots of good things. But when you look at that block in isolation, you think, blimey, there's some stuff in the red here, then it's catastrophic. So you might just want to just expand a little bit on that.
Apologies. Yes. I think it's a very valid point and certainly something that we need to reflect on. Clearly, an organisation such as ours does manage fairly significant risk given the nature of our regulated activity and, of course, the vulnerable nature of the individuals that we are supporting. But for assurance, there's been a 50% reduction in our overall rated red risk, so we will expect those overall red ratings to move to amber and then hopefully green over the next period.
50% reduction in the report, I think. Jane, do you want to comment?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I was going to pick up on the same point, and there's been it was really to understand the narrative around it because it's slightly alarming, but I also wonder if perhaps moving forward, perhaps a different layout, if possible, would be helpful to read it better. Perhaps it's just there's a lot of numbers and colours and seeing anything in catastrophic is alarming without a kind of explanation of why, what, and obviously the critical as well to understand what that means.
Okay. Anybody want to comment further? Byron.
Thank you, Chairman. And it's just something that sparked my curiosity when I read the report the other day. Item 11, just before the finance, I may have missed it elsewhere, where it says that you've released 2,860 bed days for health partners. Is there any sort of indication of sort of cost savings that would be for our health partners? I know other organisations I'm involved in, the fire service, do a sort of added value sort of piece where they can say to the external partners, because we turn up to some things that we, on statutory, etc., we've saved you 1.5 million or whatever. It's great to see those days, but what do those days relate into cost savings for our partners, etc.? It's just a geeky thing I'm quite interested in.
That's an interesting probing question. We've got an interesting probing response, have we?
Thank you for the question. We estimate that the savings that we've been able to generate for our system partners are about 1.7 million as a result of those bed days being saved.
Not insignificant then. So, okay. Yeah, come back.
Thank you for that. That's fantastic. And I presume when you do have conversations with our health partners, you remind them of that.
Yes, fair point. Anything else on this report? This is for noting, so we'll add that. I'm sure Chris will pick that up in the minutes that we've noted the report. I'm not seeing anybody disagreeing with me, so move on then to agenda item 9, report of cabinet performance on trading activities of the company.
Thank you, Chairman. This report summarises the activity that we've undertaken over the course of the first year of our operation and focuses both on the initial expectations that Dorset Council had in setting up Care Dorset, which is referenced in paragraphs 6 and 7, which indicate that initially we were due to make some efficiency savings as a result of the organisation being set up, which we've achieved the year 1 savings, and we're on track to achieve the year 2 savings as well. Furthermore, in terms of the number of beds that were available to DC, those have increased overall, and indeed the bed occupancy has as well, from the transfer number through to the 95% that was hit very recently, which hope others will agree is a positive move forward. The recovery flow, which relates to our reopenment service, has also improved. So we've supported 1,252 people over the course of the year, and over 83% of those have returned to their normal place of residence as part of our support. And further, later on in the report, we indicate that we've increased the number of reopenment hours per month, and managed to reduce, or certainly there's no increase in the package size of support needed post the reopenment period as well. We've also been working with local communities. Certainly our day services have had relationships with a number of the mayors. The report 7.41 references the relationship with the mayoress of Bridport. And lastly, in this section, our relationship with the council and our commissioning partners, I think, has been strengthened over the course of the last year. In relation to performance against the commissioning contracts, I've referenced our performance in the community reopenment space, but also in our residential care. So occupancy, as I've mentioned, has increased over the course of the year. We have also introduced what we've been calling some flexible beds that enable our health partners to discharge into our beds and free up some system savings as well. In our supported living space, we've also been improving the quality of care and support, and we're also working with our commissioning partners on improving the offer to those that reside within supported living. And lastly, in this section, the day opportunities. So I draw your attention particularly to 11.5, paragraph 11.5, in relation to the provision of care and support, which overall is about 71% more than we're commissioned to provide at the moment. Some of that reflects an increased complexity of the individuals that we're supporting, as well as the number of people we support. In relation to business growth, as the Director of Commissioning has already referenced, we have added a number of reopenment beds over the course of the year, and that's included the opening of a new building, Shottsford House, or Castleman Plus as it's also referred to, and the acuity of the individuals that we've had discharged into our care has increased since that building began to operate, which was in June, which again enables us to support those individuals out of a hospital setting and on, in the most part, back to home. Caroline's already referenced the extra care scheme, which we look forward to operating from next year. In relation to financial performance, as Caroline's already referenced, there's some financial challenges throughout the year, which is not unsurprising given the volatility in the energy market and, of course, the need to invest in our workforce to both increase recruitment but also to retain our existing workforce. As Figure 3 indicates, the overall revenue is from the block contract commissioned from Dorset Council. We do have some private fund as well, and that supports our overall financial position. The other area that I just wanted to sort of focus on was our recruitment. So we did initiate a recruitment campaign over the course of this year, which is a career in care is not for everyone. And this really underpins our view that a career in care isn't for everyone, and that it takes a special kind of person, and that has proved to be incredibly successful and supports our overall ambition to professionalise the workforce as well. The number reference here in 21 is the overall increase in establishment, whereas the number in Caroline's report is the direct support colleague increase, which is why there's the difference in the two numbers. And I would also just draw the committee's attention to section 23, which is a sample of the compliments that we've received from families, loved ones, and family members who have experienced our care and support either through our day services, our reopenment, or our residential care. As with our previous paper, the recommendation that was omitted, apologies for that, should be to note the report. There is also a handout for colleagues, which is a summary of our first year's performance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chris. Comments? Byron.
Thank you, Chairman. Chris, I hope you don't mind me asking this question, but again, it's another geeky thing that sparked my interest with these type of things. 22, the Dorset pound, where you've made mention of using local firms, what does that mean? Does that mean local Dorset area, Blandford? Because in that one, talking about Castleman Plus, which is in Blandford Forum, did you use Blandford-based firms or Dorset area firms or Dorset county firms?
So it's Dorset County firms, but largely those within the sort of Dorset Council area.
Thanks a lot. The reason why I ask is because I'm from Blandford, so...
Now there's a surprise. Anybody else? Jane.
Thank you. So I do have a question, but I just wanted to say that I have been visiting some of the day centres, aiming to get around as many as I possibly can. And I'm not surprised to read some of the comments that have been made. It's that they're not easy places to visit, actually, if you're not a care worker or social worker involved in that world. It's a very humbling environment, I find, and the level of care that I've seen, particularly in Ridgeway Plus in Weymouth, was incredible, outstanding, some very complex presentations there, delivered with, real joy, actually. I think that's the word that leads me, but they are incredible people that work there, very dedicated and very special people. So I just wanted to say that I'm going to, as I said, I've got more to visit and I will carry on going round, and I've enjoyed it very much. This made me realise that I absolutely could not take on any role like that. I simply don't have the capacity or that personality or makeup. It was just around workforce training, actually, I wanted to ask, and what you're planning on that, because obviously you've been able to increase your workforce, which is brilliant when we know how challenging that area can be, and retention is high as well. That's the other challenge, keeping people. So I just want to understand about training and what plans you have in place for that, and in terms of sort of apprenticeships and that sort of area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Chris, you have a go at that?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I think the overall ambition is for us to set up our own academy, which we anticipate doing through the course of next year. And indeed, in January, we'll be launching our apprenticeship programme, which will support the colleagues wanting to progress, but equally those that want to just build further skills and progress through their sort of management qualifications as well. Additionally, we're developing a leadership program for aspiring leaders, as well as some of our existing colleagues. We also plan to work with Skills for Care and utilise some of their programmes as well, and the sort of workforce development, make access to the Workforce Development Fund, which they have available. So there'll be a vast array of training through the academy that will be launched in the new year and progressing from there. Our ambition overall is that the academy will be something that will be open to other providers as well, and more will be referenced about that in the forthcoming strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Byron?
Thank you, Chairman. Just building on bits that you've spoken about workforce, and it touches on my last point about the Dorset pound, etc. And obviously 7.5, you had relationships between the council, etc., relationship building, I guess. Again, I speak from Blandford's perspective, but what sort of engagement are you doing, not just in Blandford, but across the other sites, with the local community or surgery or even the town council? Because I'm very keen that some of the issues we have in North Dorset particularly, but across all of Dorset, in bringing, we're talking about bringing skills, bringing people on, but sometimes a lot of the organisations I'm involved in, they don't look right in those areas, particularly if you have a site there, homegrown sort of stuff, builds into the Dorset pound and all that sort of stuff. And from my own experience, I haven't seen much engagement from the Reablement Centre in Blandford, which is a bit of a shame, because I was actually quite negative when I heard that this centre was going to be setting up. And Blandford also has sort of monthly walk-in clinics and stuff like that, which have kind of morphed into other things that I know it's not quite like a surgery would deliver local service. It's slightly different to that. But I do think there's a PR exercise, because some of the stuff you're showing here is actually really good, and this service is actually good and getting better, but also unknown unless you happen to be in the roles we currently are. So I don't know if you could touch on a little bit of that.
Thanks, Councillor, for your question. I think it's fair to say that we haven't done much in that space at all, and that is certainly something that we're keen to improve on in the coming year. Involvement and engagement is an area that both Caroline and I are very keen to improve, and again will be a feature in our strategy. And I think particularly the sort of presence that we have in Blandford with the day service, the residential care home, and also the Reablement Centre, I think is a great place for us to start and build those community relationships, and would be keen to perhaps explore with you outside of this room how we might do some of that with your introductions, Councillor. Okay.
Can I just, I'm going to ask a question now about growth. I mean, you talk about business growth, and it's good. You have to have an ambition. Is that likely to be constrained a little bit by the market and the ability to recruit? And I like your idea of picking up an academy to grow your own talent, if you like. Do you see that the two are clearly linked, aren't they? I'm just concerned a little bit that the growth might be constrained by the job market and the demands.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly there are some challenges, I think, with recruitment, and we know that the sector does struggle more generally. I think that we have a compelling package to offer. We have we benchmark well in terms of our pay and our other terms and conditions, so I'm confident that we can recruit and attract those colleagues that we need. But the academy is also a key part of us growing our workforce, working with sort of schools and colleges, so that a career in care is seen as an attractive proposition. I think the sector suffers from some bad press. We have already started building some relationships with those schools and colleges, and indeed the Director of Commissioning and I have also been talking to Bournemouth University about how we might use some of the programmes that they're running to encourage people to come and work in our organisation as well. So it's about getting them young and about promoting that sort of career in care. So it's not without its challenge, but I think with the right marketing and the right set of terms and conditions, then we will attract and retain the people that we need.
Encouraged by your activity around schools and colleges, because I think that is the link to try and encourage young people to think about care as a career. So I think I'm really encouraged by that. And there's probably others in industry that might do something similar. I think it would help young people get an idea of how they can fulfil their own aspirations going forward. But good stuff on that. Anybody else got any comments? This is a report to be noted, so we'll note it. Okay, and if silence is accepted, good. And we've got no urgent business and no exempt business today, so I'll draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.